What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, as well as another video. Hey, so today is going to make episode 3 in our FXRT clone build that we have going on. Today is going to be Teardown Day. It's rather cold up here in the Northeast. Last week it was 70 degrees and sunny, and I was riding around on my motorcycle in a t-shirt. And this week it's absolutely freezing outside. It's like 30 degrees. So what better day to be in the garage and get some of this teardown that we have to get done. We're going to go through this bike today, and starting off by removing everything that's really easy to get to. All the trinket stuff like the seat and the saddlebags. All the sheet metal is going to come off of it. We got to pull the gas tank. Gas tank's got like half a tank in it, which is actually kind of good because I'm sure my snowblower is going to need some gas. With the way this weather's going, I'll probably need it sooner rather than later. We got to go through and pull the headlight. Got to pull the marker lights. Just everything that's really easy to get to first. And then we'll work our way into some of the harder stuff that we're going to have to take off. So I have most of the bolts marinating. I've heard some horror stories about these exhaust studs on the front pipe, so a little worried about that, but hopefully that goes smoothly. But we'll find out when we get to it. So let me get set up here, and we're going to start tearing into this thing. Alright, let's start with some of the easy stuff first, namely the seat, the saddlebags, and the side covers. Now, I know a lot of you guys that are watching this, you already know how to work on your stuff, but for those that are using this as an instructional piece, I'm going to go through and as I pull these parts off, show you exactly what attaching hardware is holding everything in. I do know that there's some variations from bike to bike, but this should be just used as a basic general overview of how to take this thing apart. So starting with the seat, coming through from Harley, usually they have like a screw going through. This actually has a thumb screw style on it. Looks like someone might have changed it out. You just unscrew that, pop it right off, seat slides right out. That's no big deal. The saddlebags here, these decrepit things are going to come right off. What's holding those in is going to be two 9/16, can't really see it, bolts right there, one on each side. Geez, what do we got here? I don't know what you guys keep in your saddlebags, but cigarette butts? I don't know. Cigarette butts and a bunch of spare change. That's kind of odd. But anyway, those will pop those right off. We'll get those out of the way. And the side covers. The side covers, this one just pulls right off. I know these are kind of misleading right here. A lot of guys would just go to take an Allen head to try to pull that off. That actually holds the bracket together on the back of the cover. This cover just pops right off, so that'll be easy. And then the one on this side has two little tabs that hold it in at the top, so it just kind of sits in there. This one's pretty loose, and I can see exactly why, because the bolt on the bottom here is missing. I can't exactly tell you what size that is because it's not there. So that'll be an easy pull too. All right, let me get set up here and let's start yanking some of these parts off. Well, we got our first of what I'm sure is going to be many surprises on this bike. It was definitely used as a mouse house. We got plenty of acorns in here, a bunch of mouse turds, and I see remnants of a nest up in here, so they were definitely living in this thing. Hopefully not chewing on any of the wiring, because that would not be good. You got mouse turds all up in the fuses, and wonderful. We'll have to address that later on down the road. Yeah, everything's off. These side covers, again, just like the fenders, I mean, you can see this was a big issue with these Harleys. These are also going to need to be sandblasted because this paint is just flaking right off. So that's always wonderful. All right, on to the next. Time to pull the tank. All right, in order to pull the tank, we have a 1/2-inch bolt right here with a 1/2-inch acorn on that side. We also have another one up here at the front. We have a fuel line quick disconnect right there. That pops up. We have a crossover line going right here. We're going to have to cut these clamps, and you get to watch me spill fuel all over the floor. That should be fun. We need to take this off, obviously, in order to get the tank up out of the way first, too. So we have a 3/16 Allen right there holding that on. 4 of them right here as well. When you get into this ring right here, the only ones that you're really after that are holding them on, it's going to be 1/4 inch Allen. It's going to be this guy, and this guy. You don't actually need to take the remainder of them out unless you're separating that ring from the actual piece, which I will be doing down the road when it comes to paint. But for right now, in order to get that up and out of the way, that's all we need to do. So let's do it. And the tank is now drained. Boy, those hoses are bad, man. I'll tell you what, you touch one of those hoses after they start breaking down, mix a little gasoline in with it, and that black just gets all over your hands. Pretty nasty. Other than catching a sweet buzz, I also caught a full can of gasoline. So you guys thought I was kidding, but that stuff is going straight into my snowblower this year. So, all right. Now that the tank is done, we can move on to some of the other stuff, namely the sheet metal. We're going to pull this front fender. We're also going to remove the back fender as well. We got some taillight and bracketry and all that good stuff to pull too as well. So let's get going on that. In order to pull the front fender, we have 4 bolts total, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. These are going to be Allen heads, they're 1/4 inch. On the other side of that bolt is going to be a 1/2 inch nut. Wrench on one side, Allen head on the other, comes right off. Rear fender is pretty much held in by hopes and dreams at this point because we've pulled off the saddlebags, so the bracketry is all loose to the back of the frame here. There is, however, a plug that goes all the way down in there, way in behind. We have to fish that guy out, unplug it, and then that should be right in my hands. We'll remove the taillight and the license plate bracket and everything when we have it on the bench. All right, and I think while I'm here too, I'm also going to pull the battery because there's really no reason to have that in there now, so we'll do that as well. All right, let's get to it. In order to separate the taillight as well as the license plate housing from the fender, we have 3 3/16 Allen bolts. Surprise, surprise. Once we pull this taillight off, the outer taillight cover, behind that there's going to be a number 3 Phillips head screw that's holding that housing to the fender. On the back side of this fender, the hardware that is holding that in, those are going to be 7/16 nuts that hold those in. So let's go ahead and remove those and separate this piece. And just like that, all the sheet metal is pretty much ready to go off to bodywork. I do still have a few trinket items I gotta remove from there before it's ready to meet its fate with a sandblaster. But once we do that, we'll be ready to go. I am going to cover the bodywork part of this in an upcoming episode, so be on the lookout for that. As a side note, I'm a big fan of bagging and tagging everything. I had to regroup in here because it was just getting to be quite a mess, so I went through and put everything in bags and labeled it all so that when this thing goes back together, I'm not going to be playing any guessing games. It's just a really good habit to get into, especially when you're tearing something apart to this magnitude. So, all right, next up is going to be, we're going to remove these front directionals here. We're also going to remove the headlight. Those snake through into the frame. They come in and connect up underneath there, so we're going to have to do that. Also going to pull these rail covers right here. These are going to be heading off to paint as well. And in order to do that, the rear shocks are going to have to come off. We'll pull those. We'll pull the rear pegs as well as the belt guard. We'll probably pop that off too, just to get everything ready to go. So, all right, let's get going. In order to pull the headlight assembly out, we have a 9/16 bolt that's holding that right in. We'll be able to pop that whole thing out. It's not needed because we're going to incorporate our new headlight into the fairing. The directionals here, these are held on with little Allen heads. We'll pop those out. All the wiring just snakes right up into the frame. We'll be able to get to it via this little plastic guard right here. We'll pull that out of there and we'll be able to access the connectors from there. Snake all the wiring out and we should be good to go on that. The rear pegs are held on by T47 Torx. We'll pop those guys out. They also hold the belt guard in place as well. So we got a couple of little Allen heads, one right here that holds it to that bracket. Then we got another one here in the back. In order to get the rails or the rail covers off, we're going to have to go ahead and remove these 3/4 acorn nuts. And then we got some, looks like some bigger Allens at the bottom here that we got to pop off as well. So, all right, let's get to it. Now that all that stuff's off, we can go ahead and start concentrating on taking off the exhaust and the wheels. I did throw the shocks back on there, got a little squirrely for a minute because I totally forgot about the fact that I am on just this little LiftMaster lift here, and that's not gonna do what I needed to do. It's gonna have to be on this one right here. That is gonna involve getting a little creative because there's a couple of issues when you go to put this thing on the lift. There's a little piece of the frame that kind of hangs down a little lower here on the side, and that causes the bike to sit a little tippy. So I'm gonna have to get some blocks of wood, straps, all that good stuff, and get this thing tied down really good before I start taking it apart any further. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll get back to you. All right, with the bike on the lift now, I'm feeling a whole lot more confident about this. It's lifted, it's also strapped. Had to get a little creative underneath the bottom here. A couple of blocks of wood stacked in there to get it to sit nice and even. We're good to go. This isn't going anywhere. It's nice and secure. All right, so we're gonna start working on removing the rear wheel, the front wheel. I gotta pull those forks so I can send these out and get these ready to go as far as paint goes. And then the exhaust. Again, I sprayed the bolts. I keep spraying them every time I walk by them just to make sure that there's sufficient amounts of penetrating oil on there to try to make sure those bolts come loose. Hopefully I don't have to get crazy with a torch or anything like that, but we'll find out. Alright, so let me get set up here and we're going to start pulling these wheels. In order to pull this rear wheel, I'm first going to have to get rid of this slip-on here. I have a couple of half-inch bolts or nuts holding this to the actual bike, as well as this 9/16 acorn nut that's holding the clamp down on there. Should be able to slide that pipe right out of the way. I'm going to pull this clip off right here, get on this nut, loosen it up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take a hammer, drive this axle through the other side here, and basically should have the wheel right in my hands. On this bike, you actually don't have to remove the caliper. You can kind of slide right down through. Once that pulls out, the brake becomes loose and be all set. So, yeah, let's get to it. With the rear wheel off, we can now concentrate on removing the front. The front's going to have 15/16 nut that is holding it on there on that end. A couple of Allen heads on the bottom here for the pinch bolts. So we're going to loosen those guys up. We're going to drop the nut off there, and pretty much just like the back, we'll give it a couple of love taps, and this thing should be right in my hand. So let's do that. Now that the wheels are out of the way, we can focus on the forks. In order to get these forks off, got a couple of odd looking bolts here. If you use a close end 10mm 12-point wrench on that, those will come right loose. As you can see, I have everything just soaking in WD-40. We'll move on up to these T47s right here that hold those guys on. Once I loosen those, I'm willing to bet I'll be playing a game of catch with these things. I'm sure they'll slide right out. So we'll go ahead and get these forks off. See, I told you we'd get those forking things off easily. That was bad. I apologize. Actually, no, I don't. We're going to move on to the next. I was going to take these bars off, but I got to tell you, I think I'm going to leave them in place for right now. I have to do a whole lot of cleaning to this frame and to the engine and all that. So in order to do that and keep all this crap out of my way, I think I'm just going to leave them in place. The next thing is going to be to hit up this exhaust system, and this is the part that I've been dreading. So I'm going to start with this rear pipe first. Studs look like they're in decent shape. Oxygen sensor looks decent, so it should come off relatively easy. Famous last words. And then the front pipe, this is the one that's going to be the problem child, or so I've read and heard. So if it even remotely starts going the wrong way, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to probably have to get a hold of a set of torches and get them in here and try to heat them up, because I do not want to break a stud. That could equate to a whole lot of extra work that I really don't want to have to do. So let me get set up here. We'll start taking this rear pipe off. In order to get some good access, we're going to have to pull these heat shields. This one's already loose at the back from taking the slip-on off. 8mm to the hose clamps, and those should slide right out. The studs are 1/2 inch, and I'm going to have to pull the harness for this oxygen sensor, which is right there, snake it down through, and yeah, we'll get going on it. All right, let's do this. that wasn't too bad. I got them out. The studs are still in decent shape, so that's good. Oxygen sensor broke free, so that's nice. Be able to salvage that. Moving on to the front here. Oh boy. Alright, so these studs are, can't really see in the video, but these studs are pretty bad. They're pretty bad. I don't have high hopes. But they've been soaking for a few days, actually a few weeks now. Technically, I've been spraying the living crap out of them. So hopefully we luck out. Fingers crossed. Let's give it a shot. Man, oh man, and it's off. You know, I actually really thought I was going to have a lot more of an issue getting this thing off than I did. I mean, I did have to work at it a little bit, and unfortunately I did take the entire stud with it. However, the threads in the engine are still good, engine side, and the threads on this stud are good, so I'll clean this end up, I'll get the nut off there, and be able to reuse that stud. That's amazing. So I think a celebratory drink is in order, as well as probably a trip down to the store to pick up a lottery ticket. Whew. Man, that's a load off my mind right there. And that's going to do it for this week's video. Hey, join me next week when we spend a little time on the engine and the frame. We go through and detail it all up, as well as polish the wheels and hopefully reinstall those forks so we can get the bike back down onto the ground and continue on with this FXRT conversion. Hey, do me a favor as well, if you haven't already, give me the thumbs up, subscribe, as well as hit that bell for notifications so you know when more videos like this are going to be coming out. And as always, keep the shiny side up, and I'll see you guys all on the next video.